Sure. Hi everyone. Am I clearly audible today? I hope you got to. A second. Is my photo getting pinned, Pradnya?
It's proper, clear.
Okay. ठीक है. चलो. Okay. So guys, today we are going to discuss. As I always told you, the agenda behind creating this nerd squad meetings was mainly about encouraging people to read good books, and these are two books written by Mark Jones, and I came to know about the books, I think, after I finished my masters, and during, and I feel very bad about that after masters I came to know that such books existed. In KEM, Bhavana ma'am used to always tell us about something called as hypothesis formation, and we used to always think कि ये कहाँ से आ रहा है वैसे. It took me 8 years in physiotherapy to realize that there is actually a book which talks about everything which ma'am was teaching us in the UG days as a part of hypothesis formation in musculoskeletal practice, and that book is called Clinical Reasoning in Musculoskeletal Practice by Mark Jones. Okay. Okay, so that is the thing, and so then I realized there are two books which Mark Jones had written in this series of clinical reasoning. One was Clinical Reasoning in Health Professions, wherein he has explained about the challenges in clinical reasoning which we face as clinicians, as physiotherapists, the challenges which dentists face, the challenges which MBBS doctors face, the challenges which other health professionals face. And then he has written a book which is specific to musculoskeletal practice, where that concept of hypothesis is very nicely described. Okay, so as we go ahead, let me tell you about. I asked this question. I asked this question to those people who were working in my clinic, who were doing observerships. They were from different colleges from Mumbai, and I asked them, "What does clinical reasoning mean to you?" And the answer which we got was clinical reasoning does take place in almost all the colleges in Mumbai. I know that, but this reasoning is limited only to reasoning out impairments. इसका मतलब ऐसा है कि, for example, I have OA knee, and why do I have knee pain? The reason of this is considered as clinical reasoning, but in reality, clinical reasoning encompasses a lot of other things. As I've written down in this slide, clinical reasoning also means how do you explain the assessment to your patient? How do you explain the treatment to your patient? Clinical reasoning is nothing but basically about what thinking process is happening in your mind at the time when you're interacting with patients. Things such as how do I build trust with my patient? I don't see this patient is going to exercise much. How do I create that motivation in patient to exercise more? So all these are actually considered as parts of clinical reasoning. And in this book by Mark Jones, he has taken literally each of these components of how do we explain treatments, how do we build motivation, how do we build trust, how do we change attitudes about their disability, their illness, and all this he has explained. What questions should you ask, how do you interpret those questions, and how do you help him change those things. So clinical reasoning, guys, is not just about explaining the cause of impairments. Clinical reasoning is far more than that. Okay. Now, in the Mark Jones also nicely explained this concept of liquid modernity. Now, this question, if we have, if I see my practice 10 years back and now, there has been a wide change. Pradnya, you want to talk about this? What challenges do you face when you practice now, or maybe when you were 10 years back in Saifi or in Naya?
Yeah, so I would say that 10 years before, as you rightly said, we were trained a lot to find out a specific structure and reach a specific diagnosis, and then our job was done. Like we are treating bursitis, मतलब bursitis से related ultrasound देना है, TENS देना है, and थोड़े दिन rest देना है. Then you slowly start with the exercises, not taking into consideration what is it exactly that the patient wants. And now that is the first thing I guess I end up asking my patient when I see them for the first time. Like, what is it that concerns you the most about this condition with which you have come to me? So,
Yeah.
yeah, understanding clinical reasoning has made a lot of difference in this aspect.
So that is definitely there, Pradnya. Isme, if Sandhya ma'am is there, ma'am, but the question is not just about clinical reasoning, but do you find like the first chapter which Mark Jones has written down, he explains nicely about the difficulties which clinicians face when taking decisions in the year 2022. Ma'am, do you feel there has been a change in the patient presentation over the last 20 years? Sandhya ma'am, if you are there.
Over the last 20 years, the initial phase, I wouldn't say even 20 years, I will go back to 40 years when we learned. So that was hardly anything. We were just given the gist of what physiotherapy is and how to go about.
Yeah.
And then we started learning through experience as to consulting each other rather, because there was not much of a clinical guidance. So we consulted each other, we consulted our senior therapists, and then we came out with the idea. Now this clinical reasoning and all has expanded our views, and it really helps to your perspective to see the patient in a broader term.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Yeah. So one more thing which Mark Jones has said, and we'll come down to what he means by clinical reasoning. One more thing, what he's telling nicely is that about this concept that in 2022, okay, or in the last 10-15 years, what we have seen is that it is getting increasingly difficult to convince patients to follow a program. And ye problem, if it was 2006 in KEM, I could easily convince a patient to come to me for 10 days. Ki 10 days aapko aana hai to aana hai, khatam. Now it's a headache to convince a patient to even come for 3 days. There are so many questions you will ask. There is a constant flow. So what Mark Jones has said is that he has given a nice essay by this guy called as Bauman. And Bauman ka ek book hai, which goes by the name Liquid Modernity. Those who are interested in reading and in sociology should read this book. I have a copy of this. I will share it on the group later. But look at that book, beautiful book. They explain you how human society has changed and how and why that is getting so difficult for us as doctors, as therapists to deal with them. Okay, so basically they say that now patients are bombarded with so much of information. They are hearing noises from too many things and they don't know whom to believe, whom to trust when it comes to this. Okay, the expectations of patients are constantly rising. They would see something stupid on Instagram or something like that. You can cure frozen shoulder in 3 sittings or 1 sitting, and some therapists will promote that, and their expectations will be different. Okay, we use this word called as Uberization of healthcare. Matlab patient, and I'm sure everybody must have experienced this, is that patient will call you and ask you that I want appointment right now, doctor. Like they'll call me at 2 o'clock. I want to come at 4 o'clock. And I would say, क्या problem है? मुझको 3 साल से back pain हो रहा है. I said, then why can't you come tomorrow? No, I want to come right now. And if I say no, they will move on to the next physiotherapist. Okay. अच्छा वो आते भी है. Even if they come at 4 o'clock, there is no guarantee that would they follow up with me. So that क्या कहते हैं, that concept of attachment to a doctor, loyalty to a doctor, loyalty to other human beings is slowly getting degraded, I think, in the modern society. And Mark Jones, in a beautiful way, has described that in the society which we're living today, long-term relationships, either with other human beings or also with a physiotherapist, are considered boring. And commitment to a program, let's say most of the improvements which we can create in a patient will happen through long-term commitment to a exercise program. 3 weeks, 3 months, 2 years, that is when we see changes happening in our patients. The problem is nowadays commitments are considered obligations. So if you tell someone, you know what, I'm going to do needling and taping, they get excited, but we know it's not going to be much useful in the long run. You tell them, you exercise with me for 3 months and your knee pain will get better. And they are like, I don't know, should I come here or not come here? So there is science. We know that it is going to work, but it's getting increasingly difficult to convince patients. And you will be surprised, in the book which I already have shared on the group, Mark Jones nicely explains about how the problems which we as therapists are facing in this age are different, and what could be the few strategies which we can use to negotiate this? Because I'm sure not most of the clinicians were there. Oshin Ferreira, I just saw entering that all of us are facing these problems. The patients are not committing to the long term, and you will be surprised, Oshin, that there are solutions which are given in this book about how do you deal with it that way. Okay, yeah. The second thing is, I will not go into depths of this, but basically, many a times patients who come to us, they don't have a specific goal. Agar, let's say, how do I put it? I go to my CA and I tell him, ki, sir, I want to you do the tax returns for me, and you are going to, I am ready to pay X amount of tax. So there are numbers which the CA is hearing from me. He knows my goals very clearly, that this is what Yuvraj wants from me. Okay. But when the patients come to us, many a times they don't have clear-cut goals. Okay. So when the goals are unclear, the decision making becomes very, very ambiguous. So what we say, decision making within physiotherapy is an inexact science. What do I mean by this is that there can't be rules which we follow. Like there can't be like I give you rules today and you follow them and decision making will be great. It's an inexact science, and this is what Priya and I will discuss in the clinic many a times, is that maybe to improve your decision making in the clinic, you will have to look beyond science. And a lot of reading of sociology, a lot of reading of psychology, reading from philosophy will help you to maybe take better decisions. So apart from Mark Jones' book, and even if you see Mark Jones' book, he quotes sociologists like Bauman, he will quote philosophers like Carl Jung and other people. So basically, as you grow, those who are now out of your academic colleges, I think I will highly encourage not just this book, but I think we should read other books also, and then pick up the few good things from those books, and share it with all of us. Like we would really like to hear about what the sociology has to say about the problems which we face. Okay, yeah, yes. So another thing which Mark Jones says in this book is that there are two kinds of systems in the brain which are responsible for decision making. Okay, now clinical reasoning is a part of decision making. The two systems are, one is a slow system and one is a fast system, and most of the times we use the intuition or the fast system. So something like when I get up in the morning and I'm leaving the house, I will not think like, okay, I'm a guy, but I will not think 10 times about what clothes to wear. I will just pick up jo hai, patapat, I will go with it. I will go on my intuition. I will open the cupboard. Okay, I like this. I'm going to wear this. Okay. But if I'm going to a wedding, okay, if I'm going to a conference, maybe I will pick my shirt, and then I will think about it. Okay, it's a wedding. So, which expect jana hai, so maybe I have to dress formal. So that becomes the rational thinking. Okay. But 95% of times we use our intuition system, we use our instinct to go with reasoning. Now this is good because we don't want to burden ourselves with so much of thinking. So intuition and instinct system is good, but it is not a good system to be used when you are doing clinical reasoning. इसका example ऐसे दिया था इस same book में, which was on क्या कहते हैं, a bat and a ball cost together they cost 110 rupees. Okay, and the ball costs 100 rupees. The bat costs 100 rupees more than the ball. So what is the cost of the bat and the ball? जब हम लोग ये देखते हैं, the first answer which we will have would be the bat is 100 rupees and the ball is 10 rupees. But if you think about it for literally 10 seconds, you will realize that's not the right answer, because then the bat becomes 90 rupees more than the ball and not 100 rupees more than the ball. So the correct answer for this question would be the ball is 5 rupees and the bat is 105 rupees. But if I just throw you this question and ask you, tell me the answer in 5 seconds, many of us, including me, I would say 110, 100 rupees ka bat and 10 rupees ka ball. So that is where we feel our intuition or instincts may not be right most of the times, especially when it comes to complex problems. Okay, so what the point is, we have to now try to use the slow system, the rational system. Okay, that way. Okay, so I'm just giving you a case, then we'll go on to the categories of hypothesis which Mark Jones has written down. Okay, so this case is of a Seema, a 34-year-old graphic designer, mother of twin girls. over 2 years of age. She complains of low back pain predominantly in the right buttock region since the last 3 years. Okay, she takes painkillers and hot packs whenever the pain really increases. There is no relief with previous physiotherapy sessions. She loves to dance and is comfortable with yoga. There is a lot of kinesiophobia, a lot of fear about the pandemic. Pandemic has created a lot of anxiety in her. She's stressed. She's overprotective about her kids. Okay, and she has put on some weight, and there has body. She's afraid about body shaming. Okay, she doesn't have much social contact, especially they have decreased in the last 2 years because of the pandemic. And she doesn't want help the maids to come to her house because she doesn't want to invite anyone bahar se because of the pandemic which is happening. Okay, this is a real case which Pradnya and Tanvi had seen in one of the mudra sessions. Okay, and she's willing, and there is willingness to get better, but scared of doing physio and scared of doing exercises. So this is the case which we have with us. And as we go through each category of decision making clinical reasoning, let us ask each other where would we put Seema in that case. Okay, so this is what Seema. Let's imagine Seema is right now in front of us, and Seema is talking to us. This is the history. This is a small history which Seema is presented to us. And now let us go through the categories of hypothesis and talk about that. Okay. So we talked a lot about difficulties in decision making. We talked a lot about other interesting books which we can read. Now let's come down to the academic part of this presentation, which is Mark Jones gives you 9 categories of hypothesis. Now, what is hypothesis? These are things which you should think about when you are interacting with the patient in your clinic. Okay, so you have to create a plan in your mind that I am when I'm talking to the patient, when I'm assessing the patient, these are the 9 questions I am answering. Okay, and now for every data which comes to me, okay, for every thought which I is getting created in my mind, there has to be an equivalent action to it. Okay, so there's a data. The data could be the history or the assessment findings. That assessment finding or the history thing has to trigger a neuron in the brain. That's the thinking process. Okay, and that thinking process has to lead to an action, and we'll discuss about that. Okay, so the 9 categories of hypothesis, the 9 categories which should be fit in your brain when you're talking to a patient in the clinic are the source of symptoms just involved, the dominant pain type, the contributing factors, impairment, activity limitations, contraindications, patient's expectations, perspective on their experience, management selection and prognosis. Now हम लोग इन points से जाते हैं हम लोग. Pradnya, somebody can you just mute them? Okay. Okay. So first thing is about क्या कहते हैं source of symptoms. Okay. Now when I talk to Seema, Seema is in front of us and we're talking to Seema. She is complaining of pain in the right gluteal region. Okay. We have put a small red mark on that. Okay. Now when I say when Seema says that my pain is in the right gluteal region, this history has to create some kind of a क्या कहते हैं the neurons in your brain to fire. So when I say pain is in the right gluteal region, Anusha is there. Anusha, can you tell us what would you think if there is a pain in the right gluteal region?
Sir, so we need to think about the structures which could be giving rise to this pain. So yeah, it could be either myofascial or it could be the nerve root which could give rise to the referred pain over that region. And yes, sir. So in her case.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Okay. So even I would say the first thing which will come to my mind would be myofascia. Okay, because she's showing the right gluteal region. Okay. So I'm thinking it could be myofascia. I can think it could be the disc, maybe looking at her age, and we know that disc pain can refer in this region. Okay, that way. But now if I'm thinking it could be disc, I have to ask a question like if the data is that she's saying pain in the right gluteal region, I'm thinking it could be disc. Now this thought process has to trigger an action. Okay, and that action is I want to know if disc taking. So I'm going to ask Seema that Seema, do you have pain when you get up the first thing in the morning? Okay, Seema, do you have pain when you bend forwards? Do you have pain when you stand up from the chair? So that thought that this could be disc has triggered action, and I'm asking more questions to Seema, and then she's answering those questions, and my hypothesis, my belief that it's a disc or it's a myofascia will go up and down based on the answers which Seema gives. So if it is a myofascial pain, Seema would say that I get pain on bending forward, but early in the morning I'm not that bad. Probably when I do some activity towards the end of the day, the gluteal pain is worse. Okay, if it's a disc pain, Seema would have said in the early morning the pain is bad. I get more pain when I sit for a long time and get up from the chair. That is a presentable Seema would say, and it actually gets better when I walk around. So if Seema says that my pain is actually getting worse when I'm walking around, the disc, the myofascia is getting more importance, and disc is getting less importance. So if this is your brain, the computer system, every question you are asking is going to either support a hypothesis or reject a hypothesis, or the weight of hypothesis going up or going down. Okay, so we can think about clues for getting source of symptoms. Structures involved could be area of symptoms, kahan pe, what is the mechanism of onset and the behavior of symptoms. Okay, so in Seema's case, we can think it could be the disc, it could be the myofascia, it could be the SI joint, it could be the sciatic nerve, it could be L5S1 nerve roots, as Anusha was saying. However, again, if I'm suspecting it could be the L5S1 nerve root, I'm going to ask Seema, what is the kind of pain which you are having? If she says it's more of a dull aching kind of a pain, doesn't seem to be neuropathic. Then if she says it's a sharp shooting, lancinating kind of a pain, then I think it's a neuropathic in nature. Okay, so first question you want to ask yourself, or what I would say is that make a list of this, especially the students who are there, make a list of these questions, the categories of hypothesis, and you have to answer those hypotheses with every patient which you see. The more you keep on doing them, the more you are getting trained for creating a good hypothesis, and a good hypothesis will always lead to clinical success. Okay, so the first hypothesis, the category, source of symptoms, structures involved. This depends upon pain kahan pe bata rahe, this depends upon the mechanism of onset, and this depends upon the behavior of symptoms. Okay, the second thing, okay, is that the dominant pain types. Okay, now there are 3 dominant pain types. So if Seema says that my pain is located over the right gluteal region, it gets worse on bending forward. Otherwise, I'm absolutely doing fine. It is absolutely fine throughout the day. So there are clear-cut aggravating factors, clear-cut relieving factors. This becomes more of nociceptive pain. That means there is a structure like a gluteal muscle which is giving rise to pain. Okay. However, if Seema says that the pain is present throughout the day, 24/7, 365 days in a year. Okay. Now, and there is no specific aggravating factors, no specific relieving factors. You have ruled out the red flags. Now, this pain cannot be attributed only to one somatic structure. This is very important to understand. And then we give it category 3, the dominant pain type. I'm thinking this could be a maladaptive CNS sensitization. So if Seema is having pains in the last 3 years and she's saying she has pain throughout the day, you know what? It looks like the dominant pain type in our case could be a maladaptive CNS sensitization. We also have neuropathic pain, which we all are aware of. This pain will have a shooting, stabbing, burning kind of a sensation. It will be very erratic. There would be some activities aggravate the pain, some activities relieve, but we are not very sure about that. The presentation is erratic, and you might present with some kind of a signs of neurological damage also. Okay, so that is about dominant pain types. I have explained this and I have shared the PPT already, so you can go through this. Okay, dominant pain and neuropathic. I've given you the pathophysiology, what happens when there is a neuropathic pain. Okay, and then what happens when there is dominant pain, maladaptive CNS sensitization. So if you see in this, that is somewhere where I think Seema seems to fit in. Okay, something like widespread pain, inconsistent patterns of provocation, okay, history of failed interventions. All these are pointing that the pain would be more to do with sensitization rather than with one somatic structure. Okay. Yes. Now, the third category of hypothesis are the contributing factors. We want to see what are the factors which can be responsible for maintaining the pain in Seema. Okay, so these factors could be physical, this could be environmental, this could be psychosocial. ये 3 basic categories है जो हम लोग देखते हैं. Okay, physical could be weight, body weight. Physical could be sedentary lifestyle. Environment could, in Seema's case, could be the pandemic. She's under the current entire atmosphere. The environment has been stressful and it's bad. The fact that she's bound to house, doesn't have a house help at home, are all contributing factors why is the pain not going away. There are two psychosocial, which clearly seen in Seema's case that there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of low mood, catastrophizing behaviors which we can see in her are the maybe the reasons why the pain is getting maintained in her beyond what is expected. One good important question you have to ask yourself when you are at this is that how many of these factors, the contributing factors which you are noting, are modifiable, and how many of are non-modifiable. For example, weight is modifiable. You can easily, you as physiotherapist can easily address that. Okay, some of them such as anxiety, low mood, you can do a bit of counseling for them. So they are also kind of modifiable. But there could be non-modifiable factors also, and you can't do something about that. I can't think of anything right now, but something like someone has a limb length discrepancy of, or there was a, let's say, some kind of a fracture and he has a limb length discrepancy of 10 centimeters or 5 centimeters. Now this is something, now he's having back pain. Now he has a contributing factor, which is a biomechanical contributing factor of limb length discrepancy, but you can't change that. Okay, you can't change that. So that becomes kind of a non-modifiable contributing factor. Okay. Okay. Now the next is, now we are aware of this. As you go from the up till here, you are talking about this information, the information about source of symptoms, structures involved, about dominant pain pathways, and about contributing factors has to come purely on history. So before you touch the patient, इसके answers आपके पास तैयार होने चाहिए. What I think are the possible structures in my patient's case. Which is the dominant pain pathway, and which seems to be the contributing factors. Okay, apart from these three, the next thing which you want to set up even before you touch the patient would be the precautions and contraindications, physical examination and treatment. We will not go into depth of it. We are all aware of this. Okay, let's say you have a patient with acute shoulder pain who's saying, the moment I take my hand into abduction, I get pain which is 9 on 10 and it creates tears in my eyes. You don't want to check abduction on that day, or you definitely don't check it the first thing, because once the pain gets triggered, every other assessment is going to get confabulated. Okay, there could be a patient with bipolar hemiarthroplasty in the IPD. You don't want to do adduction and internal rotation. So before you touch the patient for assessment, you should be very clear with what are the precautions and what are the contraindications to both physical examination and to management. If there is a joint replacement, you don't want to do manual therapy. Okay, you don't want to do joint mobilization. So you should write it down clearly. A contraindication to management is one, joint mobilization, manual therapy. Okay, so this should be there with you even before you touch the patient. Okay, now this is something which is emerging a lot nowadays, which is basically you are going to ask the patient in the history itself their perspectives on their experience. Okay, and especially this is very crucial in cases जहाँ पे सीमा के केस पे जहाँ पे we can clearly see the maladaptive sensitization. So we like to ask a question such as what do you think is happening in your body which is creating this pain? Okay, then they come with beautiful answers. Like for every pain which goes down the leg, I think right now we are seeing everybody in Ville Parle will call it a sciatica. Okay, and it will take us 5 minutes to explain to them not every pain which goes down the leg is sciatica. Okay, sorry. Okay, so so we have to ask them, and then you have to explain them. So it's important to know their perspectives about their experience, because this could be the reason why their pain is not going away. This could be the reason why there is kinesiophobia, and this could be the reason why they have functional limitations. So it's very crucial that you have to ask these questions in your history itself, and you have to answer this question. So the other way of looking at category of hypothesis is that you have to fill in these blanks after your history taking is done. So basically, if you want to fill in the blanks, history में questions आपके आने ही वाले. So you have to, all the students, you have to ensure, you have to ask them about their experience, about their perspective about their experience. Okay, there are few questions which we have written down which you can use. Okay, one important thing which you have to ask them is what is your goal from physiotherapy? As we said, many a times in social science, in rehab sciences, the goals are not very clear. Okay, you have to dig, and if the goals are not clear, maybe you have to sit with them and discuss a goal for them. So many times we spend time with patients. There is a gentleman who comes to us right now who has a knee pain, and he's 65 years old, and he used to play table tennis earlier. So currently we are convincing him, you know what, why can't we have a goal that after a few months you can go back and play table tennis. Okay, that way. Okay, so that is about patients' perspectives on their experience. You have to ask for their goals from physiotherapy. Okay, okay. So I will not go into this sort of thing. Okay, this is something which patients will like to definitely know before. Is that the prognosis? Okay, is that we discussed this even in the last lecture? Is that one question they want to ask is how much time doc is going to take to make me feel better? So you have to give them some rough idea about, you know what, you do the exercises, give it 3 weeks, you will feel better. You give it 3 months, you will feel fantastic. People start appreciating you. So you have to give them some kind of a rough idea about how they are going, how much time is going to take better. Okay. So these are category of hypothesis. We discussed about source of symptoms, dominant pain pathways, contributing factors, precautions, contraindications, patient perspective on their experience, and prognosis. These 6 things have to be filled in after the history taking is done. Okay. The other things, impairments, activity limitations, and management selection, these are things which we already are doing as a part of ICF. So I don't want to go into that. Okay. But these 6 things which I discussed should be. So after history taking is done, you have to fill in the questionnaire. This kya hai? Okay. Okay. So let's say so this is the thing you should have in front of you for every patient which is there, and you fill it this way. Okay. So in Seema's case, we can think of that the hypothesis which we create for her could be that the source of symptoms could be myophasia, could be this. The dominant pain pathway seems to be CNS maladaptations. The contributing factor could be muscular imbalance, kinesiophobia, impairment. There will be activity limitations. There are no precaution contraindications. Patient is feeling frustrated and fearful, and the prognosis overall seems to be good. She's young. She loves to dance, so we can clearly motivate her to get back to dance. So those things are there which are going to be which make this case favorable case that way. Let me say, okay, so there are other things which we can think about in especially in Seema's case. For example, is like let's say we do find a trigger point on the gluteal muscle. Now I'm going a little back to the Louis Gifford lecture. Now this is not hypothesis. This is our interpretation of Seema's case. Okay, is that even if you find a trigger point on the gluteus, we know that the pain is maladaptive to CNS sensitization. And last lecture we shared the resource, the book ka naam, and people who feel but the book is expensive, go to the website. So I last time shared kiya tha. He has given you the pain biology, so you don't have to worry about that. He has given you PDFs about pain biology, so you will understand what I'm talking about. Okay, point is ki if the gluteus trigger point could actually be an output of the pain rather than being the cause of the pain. Okay, so many times we end up needling or taping or cupping the glute trigger points in a person who has pain for the last 3 years or 4 years. It's not a bad thing to do. It's not a bad thing to do. However, you have to understand the problem is that there is sensitization, and the only solution for sensitization is going to be counseling and graded exposure. So that goes back to Louis Gifford. I don't know about that. Okay, but read about that. Okay, but you will find trigger points in Seema, but they could be manifestation of the pain rather than the cause of the pain. Okay. Will a biomedical or biomechanical driven approach help Seema? No, not at all. Okay. Role of counseling and education, very important in Seema's case. Okay. How frequently would you like to see a patient like Seema in your clinic? Things will differ, but I would like to see Seema maybe once or twice, at least twice in the initial few weeks in the clinic. Maybe later on she can come less frequently to us, and we have to give her a very good home program to be there. Okay. Okay. So now moving from, as I said, the book club is about encouraging you to read various books. Okay. So this is another series of books which are there. This is the website called the Foundation of Critical Thinking, and they talk about how do you think, how do you grade your thinking, how do you grade other person's thinking, how to be better at thinking. Okay, so people who think I am not that great at clinical reasoning, maybe you can check this website when you have time, which talks about critical thinking and how do we improve that. And they talk a lot about intellectual standards. Okay, and what I say is that this standard should be there when in our when we talk to the patient. Okay, and you can go through the list which I have given. You can check their website. Okay, but I always tell this in the clinic that the first standard which should be there should be clarity of thought. Okay, there's no clarity of thought, no matter how much knowledge we have, how accurate is our diagnostics tool. We are using a gate lab, we are using a fantastic assessment technique. Nothing matters if there is no clarity of thought. In CMA's case, we should be very clear. This is maladaptive CLA sensitization. The physical things which we are seeing are the manifestation of pain, and I'm going to do good counseling with her. I'm going to create a internal locus of control into CMA, and I'm going to motivate, and I'm going to do great exposure with her. Okay, everything else, like I can use needling, I will use taping, I will use IFT, but all these things are क्या कहते हैं, I will use them, but I know they are used just to make CMA feel better and do more exercises and more movements. Okay, so clarity is very, very, very crucial, guys. Okay, when you are talking, and many, when I was a lecturer in MGM, students used to come and give me history like patient has a pain in the right shoulder and patient has pain while sleeping. That's it. And I used to say, what more? Get more clarity. So I used to put, they used to say, patient ne itna hi bataya humko. So I used to tell them, then ask them more. Okay, yeah, you ask them more. Like, can you elaborate further? What do you mean by pain in the right shoulder? Could you illustrate what you mean? Could you be more specific about where the pain is? Could you put one finger on that site of pain where you are having that pain? Okay, and all this you have to then bring together to create a fantastic history. Because a fantastic history will create a fantastic hypothesis. A fantastic hypothesis will make you do precise assessment, and precise assessment will create a very clear clarity in getting to a diagnosis, and that clear diagnosis will help you to make a very precise and effective management for your client. Okay, so these are the standards of critical thinking. We can go through them later on. Okay, now these are this was another fantastic book which I had seen, which was it was on critical thinking in health sciences at Kushta. It was a medical book. I'll send you the photo of that book later on this. And they had given about what are the errors which we make in clinical reasoning or decision making as doctors. Okay, you can go through that. I am not going to dig deep into that, but I will tell you something very interesting about that. And this is something which एक चीज है जहाँ पे where we create errors in clinical reasoning. Just bear with me with fancy words for 1 minute. Okay, now हम लोग like many people like they used to say कि this concept of special test, and special test में बोलते थे कि empty can test is positive. That means it is rotator cuff tendinopathy, or it is supraspinal tendinitis. Okay, so they would say because in Maggie it is given that empty can test is a test for supraspinal tendinitis. Okay, so every time patient of shoulder pain comes to me, I'm going to do the empty can test. If it is a case of rotator cuff tendinitis. एक second ना. But in which case क्या कहते हैं? But you look at the statement. मैगी में क्या दिया है वो देखो. मैगी में क्या दिया है कि if you find क्या कहते हैं? If you have supraspinal tendinitis, you are going to have empty can test positive. इसका meaning क्या है? If you have supraspinal tendinitis, you are going to have abduction, adduction, internal rotation and resistant internal rotation to be painful. In simple words, okay. इसका ये meaning नहीं है that abduction, adduction and resistant internal rotation painful है. It means supraspinal tendinitis. Okay, so इसका basic deductive logic. You don't think like, you know, for example, there could be a person with a shoulder fracture and he's in acute pain. और उस बंदे को भी आप लेके जाओ, he's also going to have pain in that thing. So you cannot look at it. That's why we need to follow a hypothetical deductive way of thinking about clinical reasoning and not inductive method. Okay, so hypothetical deductive method would talk about deduction was used by Sherlock Holmes. Okay, so deduction means first look at what is the patient saying. Now patient saying पे आपको अंदाज आ रहा है like a detective. Okay, it could be hypothesis create कर रहे हो. You are creating hypothesis. Hypothesis create करने के बाद आप जाके confirm कर रहे हो. Reaching out. So this is hypothetical deductive method of reasoning. Okay, people I feel many times follow ulta, exactly ulta. Like patient आता है, empty can test, हाँ positive खत्म. मतलब हमने नीचे से शुरू किया and positive हो गया. We have a diagnosis of क्या कहते हैं rotator cuff, supraspinal tendinitis. Pranaya, can you mute the person? Somebody is not mute.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Yeah. Okay.
Just mute all and I'll unmute you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine now. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay. So now we move on to So those who are bookworms, okay, can go through the hypothesis, the categories I've given them nicely. They would be confusing, okay, but enjoy them, okay. If you think they are good, okay, let me know what do you think about them, okay. Those people who are planning to do MBAs, you will undergo GMAT exams and CAT exams, and you will be having one subject called logic. And logic may this kind of questions are going to become inductive logic, deductive logic, and premise conversions, वगैरह. So all the best, okay, that way. Okay, so so basically what we want to say that good organization of knowledge is going to lead to better clinical reasoning, and clinical success, I also always tell in my teaching days, is that will depend upon the quality of higher hypothesis formation and the quality of clinical reasoning which you are going to do. Okay, and that's very important. Like guys, one of the reasons why I wanted to do this presentation was, and I will ask others also, is that clinical reasoning, clinical decision making, these words are fancy, and we use this in every syllabus from MUHS to MGM to DY Patil to Nanavati to any college in Madhya Pradesh, in Gujarat. Every college will have clinical reasoning and clinical decision making as a part of their syllabus. Okay, but sorry for my harsh words, but nobody is referring to this book. Literally, there is one book we have on clinical reasoning by Mark Jones, and this book, इसके जो first papers were published in the year 1996 or something, 1988 or something like that, about category of hypothesis and everything. And believe me, अभी तक कोई college में ये use नहीं किया जाता है. क्यों नहीं किया जाती? I don't know. Like I understand 2006 में बात अलग था, it was different age, but even today, I don't see anybody referring to. I was talking to Mansi, who's working right now with us in the clinic, and she just passed out from MPT in MUHS, and nobody's doing that. And that is what it amazes me. It's such a beautiful book. It's such a beautiful book, which I feel your third BPT student should be reading this book. Okay, because that is when you are creating ICF. Okay, so it's your third BPT student should be reading this book. Your fourth BPT should be reading. Your master should be pat with this book. Okay, so one thing which I want to tell you guys is that. Please create an echo chamber. Share. I have this book is available in public domain. I should not be sharing books with you as PDFs, but जो भी है, doesn't matter. Knowledge has to spread. Okay, please share this book with literally each and every person whom you know, and literally each and every academician you know, because I don't know why we are not reading this book. I don't know why. It's not like what we are discussing today is something which. I sitting in a positive field. No, this is something which I'm literally reading from a book and presenting it to you. And it is very sad that students who are coming out are not even aware that there are ways of taking better decisions. And if you start taking better decisions, if you can train yourself, if somebody is on your head sitting, tell me the source of symptoms, tell me the structures involved. Okay, tell me क्या कहते हैं. Tell me the patient's perspective on his pain. Okay, tell me the patient's prognosis. Okay, tell me how you are going to build trust with your patient. Tell me, and if you start answering this question right from third BPT to fourth BPT to internship, MPT 1, MPT 2, believe me, in that 5 years we can create a fantastic clinician, and that is what I feel. Anyways, it starts by us, the 45-50 people who are there today right now in front of us. Okay, us reading this book. जो chapter 1 में सब कुछ दिया हुआ है. You don't, if you are bored, don't even go beyond chapter 1. Chapter 1 will blow you out. Okay, and like the interns and the fourth years who are there should definitely read this book. Pranay, you want to say anything?
Yeah. So that is what we always have been discussing at Positive, that things which are there with us and we've not been using them. And these 9 categories, believe me, I learned about them when I joined MGM and I met Yuvraj. So understand that it is just 5 years ago that I'm talking about, that I became aware that yes, these 9 categories simplify life so much, and they help you to deal with your patient in a much better way. Like, you're not missing on to any red flags. You are in tandem with the patient's expectations, and you will be doing a wonderful job of getting a good recovery in your patients if you use clinical reasoning in the right sense for the patients. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone fourth year who's there? Let me just check. I don't know who's there. Let me just check. Anisha is there. Anisha was my student in MGM. Anisha, what's your take on clinical reasoning? And are you aware of the category before this one?
Hello, good evening, sir.
Hi, Anisha.
Yes, sir, that the clinical reasoning is really important. It means we can do a quick evaluation also with that, and that management will be more easy to manage the patient. We can find short-term and long-term goal quickly.
Yeah. That's right, Anisha. Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What's your experience in KEM right now? How does things go in KEM? Preeti will come to your answer. Don't worry. Okay? Anusha is there or she has left?
Hello, sir. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Hello, sir.
How does clinical reasoning happen in KEM? Yeah.
Yeah, sir. Actually, all the categories which are mentioned over here, not all are followed. Means I've seen that. Yes, sir. So
Yeah.
I feel that this will help us, and it means I feel that now it will make my understanding better and will
But
help me.
if you know the source of the information which you are following, getting it, if you know the book जहाँ से सब कुछ आ रहा है, I think you would be far better at answering to the questions. बराबर के नहीं?
Yes, sir.
When you are in the exam, fourth year exam, okay, is that key?
Yes,
So
sir.
reading that first chapter, like it's a 35 page chapter, would be fantastic for all the fourth years who are there, all the interns who are there, because it's going to help you immensely when you are going for the exam that way. That's the thing. Okay. Priya is there or not there? Priya, what used to happen in Sancheti, for example? Like, was reasoning focused to impairments, or it was more than just impairments? Okay. What about fair enough? Yeah. Okay, great guys. Okay. So guys, Iska, I think we don't have Priya with us right now. Okay. So yeah, so one question which was asked was, what about Seema's case? Okay, so I would say the Seema's case was a representation. What I wanted to say was that when we have a history in front of us, when a patient in front of us, you should have those 9 categories of hypothesis. When you talk to the patient, when you're done with the assessment, fill in those categories of hypothesis. Okay. My category of hypothesis could be slightly different from your categories, doesn't matter. Okay, the more the hypothesis, the better it is, but you have to confirm the hypothesis based on your assessment. The more you keep on doing that, the more you start bringing decision making from your intuition back to your slow thinking. Because when I see a patient and I feel it could be ligament injury and I'm treating him, it is more of intuition. Okay, but when I sit with the patient, I talk to the patient, I look at the mechanism of injury. I look at, so if there's a person who says they have an ankle sprain, but the pain is there since the last 3 years, no, it can't be ligament sprain after 3 years. Okay, yeah, it looks like something else. It could be chronic ankle instability or some kind of presentation of chronic pain. Okay, point is key, but this will happen to me if I sit with if I listen to the patient, I spend time in answering the questions which I have created in hypothesis. Okay, and if I do that, I would be better at clinical reasoning. I would be better at taking decisions in the clinic. Okay, fair enough, guys. I think the entire intention of Nerd Squad is to encourage people to read good books and share those books with others and share the experiences with us. We want to hear about you. We want to hear on the group. Are there any other books also which are there? Because the next Saturday, Wednesday, we are going to discuss a fantastic book which Pradnya and I came across in our days in MJ, which was evidence-based low back pain. तो ये हमें झगड़ा जो होते रहता है कि is McKenzie better, is taping better, is needling better, is motor control exercise better, is strength and conditioning better? We are going to solve that question next time when we are there. And this book also we have as PDF. We'll share it to you. Okay. So that is something which we will discuss next time. Okay. And we want to hear from you is there any book, Sandhya ma'am, or anyone who has read, who feel it might be physiotherapy, it might be related to physiotherapy, it could be sociology, as I told, it could be psychology, it could be philosophy, which I think the nerds in a profession need to should be encouraged to read. And if you have that book, we would really like on the 4th Saturday, 5th Saturday, 6th Saturday, we want to now let this take over by the students, by the seniors who are there, and we would like to hear you out also. Which are the books which blew your mind in the last 10 years, and we want to get motivated to read those books also. So let us know, guys, on the group who wants to raise his or her hand and say, I want to take the next Nerd Squad thing. Okay, and then it becomes a kind of once a month, maybe once, twice in a month, we can all meet up for discussing interesting books which we should read, which will help us to be better clinicians. Sandhya ma'am, do you remember any book like which you think everybody should read?
Not often.
Yeah, any book, ma'am. I think there's a lot of it. Yeah.
But what Preeti asked just now is, I think you said Tanvi and Pradnya saw that patient. So what did they find out about her?
Over to Pradnya. Yeah.
Yeah, so we actually treated this case online, and we were when I heard her out for the first time, I was literally scared of doing this online, because you ask her to do anything, she would be like, I wouldn't be able to do, and I won't do any home program. I am just focused on my kids. So it was a lot of counseling and education that we first took. So first session, I think, was just half an hour talking and getting to know her better. Second, what we did was we started with something like graded exposure. So she had fear of all kinds of movements, but then she somehow said that if you give me rhythmic, repetitive, fast movements, I enjoy them, because she was a dancer. So we started involving those exercises, those movements in our program. Even in yoga, Tanvi would add up fast movement patterns. I started adding a fast movement patterns to her, and each session we would end with a meditation program, so that it helps basically for her to calm down the nervous system and reduce her anxiety. We then slowly started telling her that, she should start going for a drive, and the pandemic has eased off, and take the kids out, teaching her how she should give the responsibility of kids to her parents, or start keeping a help given an opportunity. We started telling her to resume her work somehow, because she was a graphic designer and she thought she would never get back to work. The eventual outcome was that because we were seeing her 3 days in a week, so she lost some 4-5 kgs, which made her confidence come back, and she was so happy to be moving around and doing things and not focusing on pain. She had started taking her kids out for a drive, and she would allow her parents to come in. She was still a lot less on social contact, but she allowed her parents to come in at least. And we left her where she wouldn't complain of a constant pain, and she was willing to try dance again as her hobby. That's how we managed her. So we took somewhere around 16 sessions with her. but we were happy about the outcome. Her basic concern of body shaming and the movement fear, we tackled it, and then she was much, much better to go ahead with her life.
Okay,
And
thank
it's
you.
the book, The Brain That Changes Itself, and I would be very excited to hear more about that book soon from sir. Yeah, so we'll do that, sir, very soon about that. Yeah, that way. Yeah, so yeah, I think we should encourage each others to read better and better books that way. Cool, guys. Okay, so we keep it short and simple. We see you next time to answer this raging debate about which is a better form of exercise in patients with low back pain. Get all your friends from Mackenzie, get your friends from Casey, because Pradnya is going to throw a lot of light and going to solve this kya kehte hai, this thing. Pradnya, did you do anything for gluteal pain?
No, because we as we discussed that it was a CNS maladaptation. So how we told her is, let's do things which will probably not provoke that pain. So we always kept in mind there was fear in her that whatever she does will provoke her gluteal pain. So we told her we are not going to make you do anything that would just increase your pain. We literally started with 3 repetitions or a hold of 3 seconds to get her comfortable with the movement. But yeah, we never focused on her painful right glutes.
Yeah.
It was an overall movement therapy that was given.
Preeti ma'am, what you can do is you can look up for maybe I will share it on the group little later about what Louis Gifford's concept is about the pain biology, and what we see, there could be motor outcomes of pain, there could be ANS outcomes of pain, and I think when we find a person is having a myofascial trigger point after 3 years, it rather than being the cause of pain, I think what we nowadays believe more, what science believes now is that that could be more of like an outcome of a constant pain in the body rather than the cause of pain. So yeah, you can treat that. I don't think that there is any harm in treating that trigger point, but we don't want to believe that treating that trigger point is ever going to help that patient in the long run. Pradnya, am I right?
Yeah, so like these are the outputs. They are not the causative factors for the pain. And especially as he rightly said that the pain has been there since 3 years. So 3 years, say the structure is not going to be glutes, which is producing that pain. So this was a question which we were asked even when we did the Mudra masterclass. Ki, how would you ignore? So if a person is coming, very commonly we see neck pain patients saying कि trapezius में spasm है, वही दुखता है. So won't we do ultrasound or won't we do needling? Won't we do taping? Use them as an adjunct, but don't use that as a rationalization for pain. Tell them that this is probably a manifestation, and what we are doing right now is probably temporarily taking your focus off that area by treating. But what we need to do is a global having a global outlook towards your problem and not focusing on this specific area which may not be the cause of pain. So explaining them that this is not the cause of pain becomes very important stand.
And that's why I think that's why that's the reason that I think we if as a community we are going to change, I think it will come down to books, it will come down to research, it will come down to us reading good stuff. I think, and I would say that's what we would wanted to say is that a good point to start about understanding modern ways of looking at pain would be the book by Louis Gifford, and there's also a book called Explain Pain by David Mosby. And that's also that's also a fantastic book, which is by the NOI group. Yeah, that way. So that's also a wonderful book which you can look into. It's the same concept by the way, like Louis Gifford. Yeah. That way. Cool. Great, guys. Okay. So
Hello,
great
sir. Hello.
Yeah, tell me.
Sir, I had one doubt. Now, in her case, Hima's case, she was having apprehension for movements, and she had a past experience that she had gone to physio, and IFT was given and exercises were given, so that aggravated her pain. So that she has anxiety about the exercises, and she is she likes more of yoga. So initially, can we start yoga exercises which are suitable for her and which she likes along with our exercises?
Yeah,
that
so
it-
That's what precisely we did with her. The first session about talking and counseling and reassurance was done by me, but the actual session was taken by Tanvi, who's also a yoga instructor with us. So we actually, and that's how she enrolled further, because she was like, this is what something is more comfortable for me. So
there is
we
also
actually with yoga as a session.
when you're talking about clinical reasoning, Anusha, we will also look at not just about what exercise to be given. Management selection is one part of it, but maybe you talk to her. What are her understanding? What are maybe if you ask a question, what do you think is the cause of your pain? What do you think is happening in your body right now when you're getting the pain? What will happen if you do exercises or you do movements? You will get answers which would tell you the management better. So that is where clinical be very helpful. It will be very helpful to explain each and every
is mute, no?
thing to the patient. You explain her that there is nothing wrong with you. This seems fine. You explain her the management, and I think all this will come together in helping her to get better. Rekha ma'am has raised her hand. Ma'am, anything you want to ask? Okay. Fair enough.
No, by mistake. No. Don't want to ask anything. Looking at the chats.
Thank you
sorry,
so much.
Sorry.
Yeah. And, hope to see you for the next one. Next one. Bye, guys. See you.
Mm.